Hey everybody, it's your old pal Kevin here at the Noisy Beast Network. Thank you for joining me once again for another album ranking video. This time we're going to be doing 1982, which was a hugely monumental year for underground genres such as punk and metal and noisy, avant-garde, experimental weird shit. So this list is once again going to be following my favorite albums in order of my personal preference over at besteveralbums.com, where I published this ranking of my top 100 favorite albums of 1982 back in 2016. So heading over to the website, and I'm going to try to keep this concise. I'm expanding the list to 50 albums this time because there's one album in particular that I didn't want to leave out, and you'll know what it is when we get to it. So let's see here. Moving down to number 50, we've got New Gold Dream by Simple Minds. And coincidentally, my wife and I just recently, a couple months ago, saw Simple Minds in concert here in Phoenix, along with Modern English and Soft Cell. But Simple Minds were just incredible. I mean, they've been together for almost 50 years, and Jim Kerr's voice still sounds amazing. And Charisse Osei on drums. That girl is a powerhouse behind the drum kit. I'm sure there's videos available to check out on YouTube if you want to see what I'm talking about. But wow, she is just an amazing drummer. And that was a really great concert. So, at number 49, we've got Iron Fist by Motorhead. I used to have a copy of this album. It's their fifth studio album. It's a little bit more raw and aggressive sounding in the production. It's gritty. It's among my top 5 Motorhead albums. Probably closer to the 5th favorite, but still a pretty good one. And moving right along to number 48, we've got Rap Music for Rat People, a compilation of bands that were recorded live in the San Francisco area. I sold my copy of this album back on in the early 2000s. I missed the point of the compilation being live versions of songs that I already knew and had on studio albums by bands that I really like. So to me, it seemed redundant at the time to have an additional version of songs, but sometimes you just really want to hear a more raw, thrashy live version of bands that, put out music that you like. So I could see in the future, if I find a nice copy at a good price, I could definitely pick up another copy of that one. And at number 47, we've got The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. This is their 3rd studio album, and the first one with Bruce Dickinson on vocals after Paul Di'Anno was fired from the band. It's a classic, highly influential metal album that everybody's most likely familiar with, and a classic of the new wave of British heavy metal genre, along with, at number 46, Death Penalty by Witchfinder General, which is also new wave of British heavy metal, but a little bit more on the Black Sabbath influenced, doomier, stoner rock kind of precursor. A lot of songs about partying, and it's a really super cool album. It had a controversial album cover that was banned in a lot of places, but definitely an album worth checking out if you're interested in metal. But it's one that I think most metal fans are familiar with. Oh, wanted to back up for just one quick sec. In the background, what we've got playing is Not So Quiet on the Western Front, record that was put out by Maximum Rock and Roll in conjunction with Alternative Tentacles. And this album features 47 bands from Northern California and Nevada. And it also came with the very first Maximum Rock and Roll fanzine. This actually shows Volume 1, Number 0. So technically it's not the first issue. What it is, this booklet kind of gives one page of band info for each of the bands that are on this 2-record set. So I just wanted to mention what we're listening to in the background. All right, getting back to the chart though. Okay, at number 45, we've got Zoog's Rift's second album, Amputees in Limbo. I picked this up recently. This is an 1985, it says Deluxe European Edition. This was put out on a UK label, Cordelia Records. But yeah, I've previously had a SST reissue of this album. It's another great Zoog's Rift album. I know Zoog's Rift isn't for everybody. Fans of Frank Zappa would possibly find something to enjoy here. It's kind of like, think Captain Beefheart meets The Residents, with darker humor and sometimes grotesque lyrics that are just kind of like really absurd and surreal. Okay, then at number 44, we've got Third from the Sun by Chrome. I've got a UK pressing on Don't Fall Off the Mountain. This would actually end up being the very last Chrome album with Helios Creed on guitar. But from my standpoint, Chrome was just never the same again after Helios Creed left the band. So, of the duo, Damon and Helios, I'm more in the Helios Creed camp. But yeah, Third from the Sun is considered, I think, one of the more accessible Chrome albums. There's a lot of space rock weirdness on this album. You can definitely tell that Chrome influenced bands like Ministry and the Melvins and the Butthole Surfers. So if any of that strikes your fancy, I would highly recommend checking out Chrome. Okay, and then at number 43, we've got Christian Death, Only Theater of Pain, featuring Roz Williams on vocals and Rick Agnew of the Adolescents on guitar. It was an LA band that gave birth to the Los Angeles goth scene, I guess you could say. Okay, and number 42 is the Slicky Boys with their Here to Stay compilation, which compiles their first 5 singles and includes one additional unreleased track. This band was sort of garagey power pop with a little bit of a punky edge to it from Washington, D.C. prior to the whole Discord scene. And they continued putting out albums until the late 80s or early 90s, I believe. Okay, and then next, the reason why I wanted to expand the list from top 40 favorite albums to 50, at number 41, as an honorable mention at the very least, we have to include Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing by Discharge. And yeah, this album came out on Clay Records in 1982 and was just incredibly influential on so many bands. I mean, their signature D-beat drum pattern was just so crucial in the formation of grindcore and crust and extreme metal bands that would appear on labels such as Earache and Peaceville in the 90s and early 2000s. A lot of Scandinavian bands really embraced the D-beat kind of sound of Discharge. But yeah, bands such as Metallica, Sepultura, Napalm Death, all have cited Discharge as hugely influential. Discharge has a very anti-war, anti-authoritarian stance, and their imagery is very bleak, and with the black and white graphics, they were just really influential in pushing the extremes of hardcore punk. Okay, at number 40, we've got Miami, the second album by the Gun Club. I don't know, I kind of think that this album may be even better than The Fire of Love. Really great blend of swampy blues and punk with off-key vocals by Jeffrey Lee Pierce, but it works so well. The way that he delivers his vocals is like kind of genius, the way it works with the instrumentation on the songs here. Okay, moving on to number 39 is the debut self-titled Sonic Youth album. This album was the only Sonic Youth that featured Richard Edson on drums. You probably remember him from the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He was one of the two parking garage attendants when they took Cameron's car out for a joyride. But yeah, this Sonic Youth album was a little bit funkier and no wave-ish. It was kind of rooted in the minimalist New York City no wave scene, but a pretty good debut from Sonic Youth. And at number 38, we have Leather Bristles, No Survivors, and Sick Boys by Charge GBH. And this contains the entire Leather Bristle Studs and Acne 12-inch EP, and it includes a couple additional singles, so it rounds out to more of like a full-length album than the original 12-inch. But yeah, probably I would say my very favorite GBH album, Charged, Grievous Bodily Harm. Okay, so moving on to number 37. The name of this band is Talking Heads, a live compilation of Talking Heads material from late 70s into the early 80s. It's one of my favorite Talking Heads albums because unlike their studio recordings, these live versions have, to my ears, a little more of like a garage rock kind of feel. They seem a little bit more stripped down as a band and not like overproduced like some of their later material on their studio albums. The Meat Puppets debut self-titled album on SST Records, and this one is just a noisy psychedelic hardcore freakout. I mean, this is just acid-fried country music that's being played at hardcore speed, and it's almost hard to call this punk. It's just so crazy. It's like totally unhinged, but as these songs sink in, you start to, get a feel for like the song structures, which aren't as immediately apparent on this album as they would later become when they developed more of like an indie rock style later in the 80s and early 90s. Okay, then at number 35 is New York Thrash, a compilation album on Reach Out International Records, which are the Roar cassettes, same label that put out the first Bad Brains album. But yeah, this New York Thrash compilation album has a vibe to it that's like almost like those 90s comps, Killed by Death series and Back to Front, the Bloodstains compilations. But this was all music just being documented at the time when it was new. I mean, you've got bands like Kraut, The Undead, Adrenaline OD, Even Worse, Nihilistics, False Prophets, Bad Brains, Beastie Boys. Okay, and then at number 34, we've got Forever Came Today by Flesh Eaters. This is probably my second favorite Flesh Eaters album. It's packed with so many good songs. Anybody, if you're a fan of the Gun Club, I would definitely recommend checking out the Flesh Eaters. The vocals could be a deal breaker, but once you get a handle on Christie's vocal style, I think these songs will start to like become earworms for sure. Really catchy music and poetic lyrics. All right, moving along to number 33 on our best ever albums list, Born Innocent by Red Cross. I like Red Cross. This first album, though, there's so many songs that already appeared on LA punk compilations that I'd say like half the material on here is already familiar, so that kind of lessens the impact. And I think as a band, they just got a lot better later on in their career. Alright, at number 32, I only have a copy on CD, but it's Prince, 1999. This came out in 1982. Wow. Okay, at number 31, we've got Forever Now, the Psychedelic Furs' third album. And this album was notably produced by Todd Rundgren, and it contains the song President Gas, which is one of my favorite Psychedelic Furs songs. Okay, and then moving on to number 30, Bauhaus, The Sky's Gone Out. So on this album, Bauhaus was branching out a little further from the goth music that they established on their first two records. I only have this Ziggy Stardust 12-inch that includes Third Uncle, which appears on The Sky's Gone Out. This is a Brian Eno cover, and yeah, this 12-inch also includes Party of the First Part, which is it's not really a song, it's kind of a novelty track, but it's a really cool spoken word kind of thing. Okay, next at number 29, we've got Indoor Fiends by the Hypnotics. Not the Hypnotics, but just Hypnotics. And this is the very first release on the Enigma record label. Yeah, this is really garagey, snotty punk rock from LA. But yeah, it's a really great... Fans of like the Angry Samoans would probably love this record. Okay, and then at number 28 is Pleasure Victim by Berlin. The vocals of Terry Nunn really carry this album, I would say. Her voice is just so great. It really brings these songs to life, such as Masquerade and The Metro. Okay, and then at number 27, you can't really do a best albums ranking without including the Thriller album by Michael Jackson. I'm a punk guy. I like some metal. I like some abrasive, noisy shit, but like the historical and cultural relevance of Michael Jackson's Thriller, you can't deny it, right? So at number 27, yeah, this album was produced by Quincy Jones. It's got cameo appearances by Eddie Van Halen, Paul McCartney, Vincent Price. Dominated MTV for quite a while. I mean, it's considered, I think to this day, it's still the number one best-selling album of all time. So I don't own a copy of it, but I just felt like it was worthy of including here on this best albums list. Also, with number 26, Peter Gabriel, I believe this was his fourth studio album, solo album after he left Genesis. I don't own a copy, but it's got that song Shock the Monkey, which I loved when I was a kid. And every time that came on the radio, I just loved hearing that song. But as an album, it's really good. Okay, and then moving on to number 25, we've got Still Screaming by Scream. This is the debut Scream album, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the very first full-length album on Discharge Records. I only have this on CD, which compiles their first two albums. I listened to it again not too long ago, and I was really surprised by how much it reminded me of 7 Seconds. I don't think back in the day when I was listening to it, when I had a copy on vinyl, I never really made the connection so much that... I don't know if it's just the vocals or the music, but... And then, of course, Scream being the band that Dave Grohl notably got his start with before joining Nirvana. I think he played on their very last album. Okay, and at number 24 is Height by Cabaret Voltaire. This is Cabaret Voltaire live in Japan. Although, as with most live albums, there's a lot of overdubs and shit, that they did it later on in the studio to supplement the live recordings. Really nice labels, though, on this record. It just looks really nice. But yeah, I would say next to The Crackdown and Microphonies, this live album by Cabaret Voltaire is probably like my third favorite by them. Okay, and then at number 23, we've got Shabu Shaba by INXS. I believe this is their third album, and it features the song Don't Change, which is the last song on the second side, but it's like possibly my favorite INXS song. That song is just so great. But yeah, this is my favorite INXS aside from Listen Like Thieves. That's my top favorite INXS. Alright, and then at number 22, I used to have a copy of Chronic Town by R.E.M. back when I was in high school, but yeah, this is the record that kind of started the entire American indie rock era that was known as college rock. It's a 5-song EP, it's really good, early R.E.M. Okay, and then at number 21, we have Leichenschrei by Sozialistisches Patientenkollektiv, or better known as SPK. And on this album, there's metallic percussion, distorted samples, a lot of references to mental illness, a big influence on later industrial bands such as Coil, Skinny Puppy, and early Nine Inch Nails. Pretty abrasive stuff, but I think it's incredible. Definitely my favorite SPK album. Moving on to number 20 is a compilation called What Is It on What Records. Features the Dills, the Germs, the Skulls, the Controllers, the Eyes. Really good Los Angeles punk compilation. And then at number 19, Wasn't Tomorrow Wonderful by The Waitresses, featuring Patty Donahue with her sarcastic, sassy vocals. Yeah, but it's a really nice blend of funk and a little bit of ska and some jazzy parts, and it's a fairly new wave-ish album, but yeah, definitely the vocals of Patty Donahue, who, rest in peace, she died of lung cancer at the age of 40, sometime back in the 90s, I believe. So, what a tragic loss. Alright, now at number 18 is another Discord release. This is a split album by The Faith and Void. And The Faith was notably fronted by Ian MacKay's younger brother, Alec Mackay, on vocals. Some of the members of this group later went on to play in Embrace and Ignition. The other side of this split is the Void side, which is my favorite. This is more chaotic and darker, whereas The Faith are fairly standard melodic hardcore from the Washington, D.C. area. This Void side of the split, I mean, it's noisier, it's a little bit metallic, the vocals are deranged and unhinged, and the the subject matter is darker, as you'd expect from, an album cover like that. But yeah, really excellent split LP on Discord from 1982, coming in at number 18. And then at number 17, unfortunately I don't own a copy of this on vinyl or CD. I would like to pick up a copy of Ache, the second album by You've Got Fetus on Your Breath. It's comparable to their debut. Well, I shouldn't say it's the brainchild of J.G. Thirlwell, and it's basically his solo project. So I think Jim Thirlwell, otherwise known as Jim Fetus, he really found his voice on this album. And there's less like collage tracks as there was on the debut album. And now there's more song structure, a lot of really wacky tributes to big band and jazz, and as we come to expect from later Fetus albums. Okay, and then at number 16 is the self-titled Salvation Army album. This group would pretty soon after this change their name to the 3 O'Clock, but this is a really good Los Angeles neo-psychedelic, 60s styled psychedelic pop and garage rock. And this is on Frontier Records. Okay, now at number 15 is Milo Goes to College by the Descendents. And this album was originally released on New Alliance Records, which was the Minutemen's record label. Later, this was reissued on SST. My copy, unfortunately, does not include the double-sided lyric insert, but you almost kind of don't need it because their sound, even though it's fast LA hardcore punk, the vocals are really easy to discern. And Milo Ackerman, the vocalist for the Descendents, with his iconic portrait of, as their band mascot, he did actually go to college at UC San Diego to study biology after this album was released. So there's 15 songs on here, and the total runtime, I think, is about 22 minutes. But yeah, the Descendents, with this album, they established themselves as part of the LA scene, right up there among the ranks of Black Flag, the Circle Jerks, the Adolescents. The songs are so melodic and they're so catchy. The Descendents influenced so many bands later on in the 90s that played in a pop-punk style. Alright, now at number 14, another album that I just merely have it on CD, but that's okay. This is the last Roxy music album. I think it's their 8th album. And I know, some folks would put this like in the adult contemporary category. I mean, the music, it's very polished, it's very nicely produced. Brian Ferry's vocals are just buttery smooth, and I love the guitar work of Phil Manzanera. I mean, it's got more than this. The title track, Avalon. The whole album is great. It just sounds, it's a beautiful album. Okay, and at number 13, we've got DOA's War on 45. I've got an OG press on Alternative Tentacles, and also this UK press that featured a different album cover. It's got a Bible in one hand and a gun in the other. Talk minus action equals 0. But yeah, they do a cover of War by Edwin Starr, and they also do a cover of the Dills' Class War. The music by early DOA, I think, is still relevant today. It's just full of righteous anger, and I'd say this is right up there with Hardcore 81 and Something Better Change, their debut album. After that, DOA became a little bit more rock-oriented and less punk-sounding, but their punk ethos, like, definitely was always stayed with them. Okay, next at number 12, we've got The Replacements' Stink. This is definitely the Replacements at their thrashiest punk sound that they, would definitely tone down on subsequent albums. Yeah, this is just essential listening for anybody who's a fan of 80s Midwestern punk and hardcore. The track list is great. You got Kids Don't Follow, Fuck School, Stuck in the Middle, Goddamn Job, White and Lazy, Dope Smoking Moron, and Go. Yeah, brilliant stuff by The Replacements. One of my favorite bands. Okay, at number 11, we've got the album Generic Flipper by the San Francisco Sludge Kings of punk. This is a precursor to noise rock, sludge metal, and grunge, of course. Kurt Cobain being a big fan of Flipper. Okay, now moving on to number 10. I have to own up to this being a mistake of when I published this ranking on besteveralbums.com, I believed that this was a 1982 release. The Landshark 12-inch by Fang. Actually, it came out in 1983. So instead, I'm just going to make up for that by showing American Wino by The Lewd. And the Lewd was originally from Seattle, Washington, and then they relocated to the San Francisco area. Fang was also from Berkeley, East Bay area, and so these guys were kind of like in the similar, like, general vicinity of San Francisco. But yeah, this album is great. You've got the title track, American Wino, I'm Not Pretty, Climate of Fear, Suburban Prodigy, Beyond Moderation. Side 1 is all studio tracks, and then on side 2 there's Polluted Brain and Mobile Home, among a few other tracks. And it has this photo insert with lyrics. So, okay, at number 9, legit, we've got the first of a trilogy of compilations from Phoenix, Arizona on the Placebo record label. And this is the Amok compilation, which features Jodie Foster's Army. That Placebo Records was their record label. It's got the Meat Puppets, Killer Pussy, Sun City Girls, Soylent Green. That's all on side 1, and then on side 2 you've got more like artsy, experimental, avant-garde type stuff. Any duplication of this album is punishable by law and or death. But yeah, there's a total of 17 tracks by 17 different bands on this Phoenix Underground compilation. At number 8, we've got Fear, the record. Everybody knows this record, right? I mean, this came out actually after their infamous performance on Saturday Night Live. Vocalist Lee Ving's singing style is like kind of bluesy. It sort of reminds me of Howlin' Wolf a little bit. The musicianship by this band is really tight. The subject matter of their lyrics is pretty offensive, but that's kind of also what makes it great, you know, the dark humor. At number 7, I'm sorry to say, I'm ashamed to say I don't have a copy of this on vinyl or CD. I need to get a copy of this Chuck Berry, The Great 28, which is, it's on Chess Records, and I'm pretty sure it's considered the definitive greatest hits album of Chuck Berry, who was, you know, so crucial in the development of rock and roll back in the 50s and 60s. Okay, next at number 6 is Walk Among Us by the Misfits. This is a reissue from 1987 or 88. I don't know. It's a late 80s reissue. But yeah, everyone knows that the Misfits inspired countless number of bands, from Metallica to White Zombie. This defines the horror punk genre. Okay, it's got the inner sleeve with photos and lyrics. But yeah, the Misfits made it cool to sing about weird, like, sci-fi horror 1950s like horror movie schlock subject matter of aliens and zombies and committing murder, and just all to like such a like catchy melodic soundtrack, with Glenn Danzig's vocals, of course, being a hybrid of like Elvis and Jim Morrison. You know them, you love them. The Misfits at number 6. On my chart ranking the best albums, or at least my favorite albums of 1982. Alright, and then at number 5, we've got Mission of Burma Versus. This is also an album that I only have on CD. This was originally released on Ace of Hearts, and then Ryko Disc did this 1997 reissue. Mission of Burma's music was intelligent and emotional, but yet it was abstract. Lots of jagged guitar and feedback and noisy tape loops. I consider this to be a post-punk masterpiece, and it was hugely influential on bands like Sonic Youth, Fugazi, the Pixies. You can hear influence of Mission of Burma. They're from Boston, Massachusetts. And that's coming in at number 5. And next at number 4, we've got Combat Rock by The Clash. I know this was a divisive album for a lot of Clash fans. I mean, a lot of folks would say this isn't even really like punk rock anymore. It's more mainstream commercial stuff. But there's just a really great blend of styles on this album, from funk and hip-hop to spoken word with a cameo from Allen Ginsberg. And it has sentimental value to me because I remember hearing Rock the Casbah on the radio when I was a kid, and Should I Stay or Should I Go? Yeah, when I started getting into punk and new wave music back in high school, this was one of the early albums that I latched onto. Okay, and now at number 3, we've got the debut album S is for Space by White Flag. These guys were so great. There is so much absurd, tongue-in-cheek satire on this record. I mean, for one thing, their logo is a sideways black flag bars. They presented themselves as a Christian band that were anti-drugs and pro-Ronald Reagan. On the back cover, there's a photo of White Flag with the guys from Black Flag cowering in their presence. And this copy is signed by their bassist, Doug Graves. I think the first 1,000 copies of this original pressing were signed by, the band members all took turns signing copies of this record. And it's on their Gasatanka record label. I like this custom label there with the band. And there's so many little jokey, kind of annoying but practical jokes on this record, like locked grooves and hidden songs, sometimes maybe aggravating because you actually have to it demands listener interaction because you've got to manually move the needle over to different parts of the record so it doesn't get stuck in a locked groove, so you can hear the hidden tracks. So yeah, White Flag, they were kind of notoriously a band of practical jokers, and they definitely didn't take themselves too seriously, and yet they came across like they were really serious about what they were doing and what they stood for. Okay, so that's number 3, and next we have at number 2 the self-titled Bad Brains debut. That was a cassette-only release on Reach Out International Records, the Roar cassette. In the late 80s, it was reissued on CD and vinyl. And then finally, at number 1 on my 1982 Best Of list, we've got Dead Kennedys, Plastic Surgery Disasters. I love this picture. It's funny and creepy at the same time. And yeah, this came with a booklet of collage art by Winston Smith. I forgot there's also early Alternative Tentacles mail order catalog here. This booklet with lyrics, collage artwork by Winston Smith, It's just chock full of weird and kind of creepy clip art, a lot of stuff from old magazines. But yeah, I'd say that this second full-length album by the Dead Kennedys is a huge leap forward from their debut album, Fresh Fruit for Rotting Vegetables. It's just a really furious critique of American society in the Reagan era, touching on subjects of police brutality, conformity, consumerism, environmental destruction. That's my number one pick for 1982. I remember when I was a freshman in high school, and the first time I heard this album, I actually thought it was like pretty scary. It was just like, I'd never heard anything so like, something that was so drenched in, I don't know if nihilism's the right word, it just seemed like really bleak and cynical, but it was also, it had humor to it, but it was like, I don't know, maybe the album cover artwork just already, like, right from the start, it's kind of like scary and creepy and cool, but unnerving. Those are my picks for favorite albums of 1982, and like in the last couple videos, I want to go through in alphabetical order and just show a few of my favorite 7-inch records from 1982. We've got the Black Flag TV Party 7-inch that also has I've Got to Run and My Rules. This is a original pressing on Unicorn. And then the Firebomb single by Chrome, which has Shadow of a Thousand Years on the back. And from Phoenix, Arizona, Killer Pussy, Teenage Enema Nurses in Bondage. Also includes Tomahawks, Dial-A-Teen, and Pumperama. And there's a sticker on this outer sleeve that says, Best of Phoenix, New Times, 1982, Best EP Record, Best Modern Band. Killer Pussy on Show Pink Records. And finally, Peter and the Test Tube Babies, Band from the Pubs. I believe a couple of the tracks from this 7-inch are included on their debut album. You got Band from the Pubs, Moped Lads, and Peacehaven Wild Kids. And the production on this record is so good. I mean, the drums sound amazing. Like, this 7-inch is just a banger. Possibly all the Peter and the Test Tube Babies that I would need, but anyway, thanks for sticking with me through the end of this video. Please leave a comment if you feel like I missed something, if I didn't include one of your favorite records. I'd love to hear what it is. I'm always happy to go back and listen to something and reevaluate, you know, my thoughts on different bands and their releases. So leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. As always, have fun listening to great music. Peace out. I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.